When two of Hollywood's biggest legends collide, the world stops to watch. Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, two names that have defined stardom for decades, found themselves in a clash that fans still can't stop talking about. With Cruise's relentless energy crashing against Pitt's cool, calculated composure, the moment turned into more than just a disagreement. It became a battle of egos, styles, and legacies. Audiences were left stunned as Pitt delivered the ultimate shutdown, proving that when Hollywood icons go head-to-head, the drama off-screen can be just as explosive as anything on film. In Hollywood, few rivalries capture the imagination quite like the tension between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Both men are not just actors but cultural icons who shaped generations of cinema, with blockbuster hits, awards, and global fan bases that cemented them as titans of the industry. Yet, when these two worlds collide, sparks fly, creating a spectacle that goes far beyond the screen. The clash between them has often been framed as a battle of egos, two very different personalities clashing under the bright lights of fame, and that friction makes their dynamic endlessly fascinating for audiences worldwide. Brad Pitt has always been known for his laid-back charisma, the kind of cool, effortless charm that draws people in without him needing to try. His career reflects that, with roles that balance artistry and mass appeal. He often chooses scripts that allow him to show depth, vulnerability, and layers, building his image as not only a leading man but also a serious actor with vision. In contrast, Tom Cruise built his career around intensity and drive. His reputation for taking risks, doing his own stunts, and pushing the limits of what an actor can do physically has made him a symbol of determination and control. Where Pitt is relaxed, Cruise is relentless, and that difference has always been a source of tension when their paths cross. Their collaboration in Interview with the Vampire back in the 1990s remains one of the clearest examples of this clash of styles. Pitt, portraying the brooding and melancholic Lewis, leaned into subtle emotions, stillness, and nuance. Cruise, on the other hand, took on the flamboyant and commanding Lestat with a kind of high-energy intensity that dominates the screen. Fans and critics could feel the contrast in their performances, and behind the scenes, it was no secret that their approaches didn't align. Pitt reportedly found the production difficult and often felt overshadowed, while Cruise thrived on the challenge of commanding attention. This difference in how they view their craft made their professional relationship strained, and those old tensions have followed them ever since. Over the years, the media has fueled the narrative of competition between them, with each new project inviting comparisons. Pitt's awards recognition, including his eventual Oscar win, added weight to his artistic credibility, while Cruise's box office dominance, particularly through the Mission Impossible franchise, positioned him as Hollywood's most bankable action star. Both men achieved greatness, but in such different ways that it was inevitable people would pit them against each other. That contrast, one focused on artistry, the other on spectacle, feeds into the larger ego-driven clash. Whenever their names resurface in the same conversation, the debate reignites: who truly represents Hollywood at its peak? For some, Pitt's cool, effortless image and selective projects make him the ultimate movie star. For others, Cruise's relentless commitment to spectacle and his undeniable draw at the global box office put him on top. The clash of egos isn't just about personal tension, it's about two different visions of what it means to be a star. What makes this rivalry so captivating is that neither man has faded. Even decades into their careers, both remain at the forefront of Hollywood. Cruise continues to redefine action cinema, constantly risking himself for bigger, bolder stunts, while Pitt maintains his credibility as an actor and producer, shaping projects that win critical acclaim and challenge audiences. When they collide, it's not just a clash of personalities, but a meeting of two dominant forces who refuse to step aside. For fans, watching Brad Pitt shut down Tom Cruise, whether in a subtle moment of wit, a sharp response, or even through his measured calmness, feels like a rare glimpse into the unspoken rivalry beneath the surface. It isn't always about loud arguments or dramatic outbursts. Sometimes it's in the silence, the smirk, the refusal to give ground that the ego battle plays out. Pitt's strength has always been in not needing to try too hard, while Cruise's comes from showing how much effort he's willing to pour into everything. Those differences, when put side by side, create an electric energy that draws audiences in every time. Ultimately, the fascination with their clash comes down to more than Hollywood gossip. It's about the larger themes of ambition, identity, and power in the entertainment industry. Two men at the top of their game, unwilling to bow to the other, both embodying different versions of stardom, make for a timeless story. Viewers can't help but watch, compare, and take sides, and that engagement ensures the Brad Pitt versus Tom Cruise dynamic will continue to intrigue for years to come. It's not just a rivalry, it's a reflection of Hollywood itself, a clash of egos that defines what it means to be larger than life. When it comes to Hollywood rivalries that capture the attention of audiences, the dynamic between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise stands out as one of the most fascinating. Their on-screen rivalry, most memorably displayed in Interview with the Vampire, has become the stuff of legend. The film brought together two of the biggest stars of their generation at a time when both were ascending toward the peak of their careers. What emerged was not just a gothic drama but a cultural moment that highlighted the stark differences in their acting styles, personalities, and approaches to fame. This rivalry wasn't confined to the script, it spilled into the perception of their relationship, the way fans viewed their performances, and the way Hollywood framed their careers afterward. In Interview with the Vampire, Brad Pitt played Lewis, a tortured soul wrestling with immortality and morality, while Tom Cruise embodied Lestat, the flamboyant, dangerous, and charismatic vampire who thrives on chaos. The contrast between the two characters reflected the very essence of their real-life acting personas. Pitt leaned into subtlety, restraint, and a brooding quality that allowed his performance to simmer beneath the surface. Cruise, on the other hand, unleashed a whirlwind of energy, playing Lestat with a theatrical flair that demanded attention in every frame. It wasn't just two characters interacting, it felt like two acting philosophies clashing head-on, with the audience caught in the middle of the storm. The tension was palpable not only on screen but behind the scenes. Reports from the set suggested Pitt was unhappy during production, even considering walking away at one point, while Cruise thrived in the spotlight of his larger-than-life role. That friction added a layer of authenticity to their on-screen rivalry, making every glare, every line of dialogue, and every conflict between Lewis and Lestat feel more real. For viewers, it was hard not to wonder how much of that tension was acting, and how much of it was the true clash of two Hollywood giants unwilling to yield to each other. The movie became a cultural touchstone because it showcased two different visions of stardom. Pitt's performance spoke to audiences who admired his quiet intensity and ability to express pain and vulnerability. Cruise's performance appealed to those who loved spectacle, charisma, and unapologetic dominance. Together, they created a balance of light and dark, calm and chaos, restraint and excess. That balance, however, was not harmonious. It was confrontational, a push and pull that kept the story alive but also set the stage for decades of comparisons between the two men. What makes their on-screen rivalry so memorable is the way it symbolized larger questions about Hollywood itself. Pitt represented the actor who valued craft, subtlety, and emotional realism. Cruise embodied the star who valued showmanship, magnetism, and control of the frame. Both approaches have their strengths, but when brought together, the differences became glaring. Fans argued over who carried the movie, critics debated the effectiveness of their portrayals, and the entertainment press capitalized on the rumors of conflict. The rivalry wasn't just about one film, it became an ongoing narrative that added intrigue to their careers for years to come. The legacy of Interview with a Vampire proves how powerful this rivalry was. Decades later, audiences still revisit the film not just for its gothic atmosphere, but for the electric tension between Pitt and Cruise. Many agree that the film wouldn't have the same lasting impact without that clash of styles, because the rivalry gave the story weight beyond its supernatural plot. It was art imitating life, life imitating art, and a perfect storm of personality and performance that continues to captivate viewers. Their rivalry also pushed each of them in different directions. Pitt continued to pursue roles that challenged him artistically, leading to acclaimed performances and eventually an Academy Award. Cruise doubled down on his image as the ultimate action star, redefining the blockbuster formula with his willingness to risk everything for the perfect shot. While their careers diverged, the shadow of their on-screen rivalry lingered, reminding audiences that when two icons share the screen, it can never be neutral, it's a battle for dominance, even if it's subtle. For fans, that rivalry is part of the allure. Watching Pitt's quiet strength push against Cruise's explosive charisma creates a viewing experience that feels larger than the story itself. It taps into the human fascination with competition, with watching two powerful forces collide, each trying to prove their worth. Even today, when their names come up in the same conversation, people recall that moment in cinematic history when they went head-to-head, leaving an impression that outlives the movie itself. The on-screen rivalry between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise isn't just about a single performance. It's about what happens when two different versions of Hollywood greatness collide. It's about tension, competition, and the art of contrast, the kind of energy that makes audiences sit forward in their seats. That energy is why people keep watching, keep debating, and keep returning to that iconic clash. It was more than just acting, it was a statement about who these men were as stars, and the rivalry still resonates because it represents the very heart of what makes Hollywood so compelling. When Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise are mentioned in the same breath, the conversation almost always turns to their differences, their rivalry, and the way their paths have crossed in Hollywood. What makes their dynamic so captivating is not just what happens on screen but what spills over into public moments. A public confrontation between these two icons carries an energy that few other celebrity interactions can match. It's not just about words exchanged, it's about body language, presence, and the undeniable fact that both men embody very different versions of stardom. Audiences and the media thrive on these clashes because they offer a glimpse behind the polished images, exposing egos, insecurities, and the raw competitiveness that comes with being at the top. Brad Pitt has long cultivated an image of cool detachment, often handling press interactions with charm, humor, and a sense of calm. Tom Cruise, on the other hand, thrives on intensity and control, taking over conversations with enthusiasm and energy that sometimes feel overwhelming. When these two personalities share the same stage, whether in interviews, press tours, or industry events, the friction becomes impossible to ignore. Pitt's quiet smirks or understated responses can feel like subtle dismissals of Cruise's over-the-top energy, and Cruise's determination to dominate the room can come across as a direct challenge to Pitt's effortless composure. The clash is not always explosive, but it's there in the subtext, and audiences pick up on it instantly. One of the most famous examples of their public tension traces back to the promotion of Interview with the Vampire. During press junkets, Cruise's animated storytelling often stood in stark contrast to Pitt's more restrained demeanor. Journalists reported on the unease between them, and fans watching interviews couldn't help but sense the distance. Pitt's calm, almost indifferent attitude gave the impression that he wasn't willing to play into Cruise's high-energy narratives. That subtle resistance was its own form of confrontation, a quiet refusal to be overshadowed. For viewers, these moments were just as fascinating as anything they did in the film itself because it felt real, unscripted, and raw. Over time, rumors and stories continued to fuel the idea that Pitt and Cruise were never entirely comfortable in each other's presence. At public events, their interactions, or lack thereof, were scrutinized closely. Who avoided eye contact? Who dominated the conversation? Who received more applause? These small details became magnified because people were eager to see which star would claim the upper hand. In Hollywood, where image is everything, even silence can be a form of confrontation, and Pitt and Cruise have mastered that unspoken battle. The idea of public confrontation between them also represents something bigger, the clash of two Hollywood archetypes. Cruise embodies control, discipline, and relentless drive, always positioning himself as the hardest worker in the room. Pitt represents ease, charm, and natural talent, someone who doesn't seem to need to try too hard. When they share the spotlight, these archetypes collide. For the audience, it's not just about who speaks louder or makes the sharper comment, it's about which approach to fame and success resonates more. Watching them interact forces fans to pick sides, fueling debates about who comes across as the real star in those moments.
Public confrontation don't always need fireworks to leave an impact.
Sometimes it's in the way Pitt lets a silence linger after Cruise's passionate outburst, or how Cruise leans forward with intensity when Pitt gives a casual, understated answer. These small interactions create tension that feels larger than life because of who they are. Every smirk, every glance, every pause becomes loaded with meaning when two Hollywood legends are involved. Fans know. They're witnessing more than just promotional banter. They're watching the continuation of a rivalry that has been simmering for decades.
The impact of this confrontation goes beyond the immediate moment.
Media outlets amplify them, social platforms dissect them, and fans replay them endlessly, searching for signs of shade or superiority. A single red carpet interaction or interview clip can spark days of discussion, with headlines framing it as a battle of egos. This amplification turns even minor exchanges into cultural events, reinforcing the idea that Pitt and Cruise are locked in an ongoing duel for Hollywood dominance. For audiences, the allure of watching a public confrontation between Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise lies in the authenticity it suggests. Behind the glamour and rehearsed smiles, here are two men whose competitive spirits refuse to be hidden. They don't need to raise their voices or engage in dramatic feuds for the tension to be felt. It's enough to see how they navigate sharing space, how they respond to each other's presence, and how their contrasting energies refuse to blend. In the end, These public confrontations are not just about two actors, they're about what they represent. Cruise is the showman, the risk-taker, the embodiment of Hollywood's obsession with spectacle. Pitt is the cool strategist, the artist who values subtlety and craft. When they stand side by side, it's not just a meeting of two stars, it's a collision of ideologies about what it means to be a legend. That's why fans and the media can't look away. Every time Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise appear together, it feels like a continuation of an epic saga, a public rivalry that refuses to die down, and a reminder that even in Hollywood, egos will always clash under the spotlight. When looking at the careers of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, one thing is undeniable: their impact on Hollywood is monumental. These two names are not just actors, they are institutions, cultural forces who have shaped cinema in ways that few others can claim. Their legacy is not only measured by box office numbers or awards, but by the lasting imprint they've left on the industry, audiences, and the very definition of what it means to be a Hollywood icon. The clash between them, whether subtle or direct, only amplifies that legacy because it places them side by side as benchmarks for greatness. Tom Cruise carved his legacy through sheer determination and an almost unmatched drive. From Top Gun to the Mission Impossible franchise, he has continually reinvented the action genre, setting new standards for spectacle and physical commitment. His insistence on performing his own stunts has made him more than just an actor. He's become a symbol of cinematic daring. Each leap from a building, each death-defying stunt isn't just a performance. It's a statement about pushing limits, about giving audiences something real in an era dominated by CGI. That relentless pursuit of bigger, bolder action has ensured that Cruise's name will always be tied to the evolution of blockbuster filmmaking. Brad Pitt, on the other hand, built a legacy rooted in versatility and artistry. While Cruise often leaned into spectacle, Pitt pursued depth. From his breakout roles in Legends of the Fallen 7 to his acclaimed performances in Fight Club, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Pitt became synonymous with layered, complex characters. He didn't just play roles, he inhabited them, often choosing projects that balanced mainstream appeal with artistic credibility. Beyond acting, Pitt's influence as a producer has further cemented his legacy, backing award-winning films like 12 Years a Slave and Moonlight. His impact is not just as a performer, but as a tastemaker who shapes the stories Hollywood tells. When their careers are compared, the legacy of their clash becomes clear. Cruise represents the star who embodies Hollywood's obsession with spectacle and control, while Pitt represents the star who prioritizes craft and subtlety. Both legacies are valid, powerful, and enduring, but their coexistence creates a narrative of contrast that fascinates audiences.
Ou de fin Hollywood mort?
The relentless showman who risks everything for the perfect shot, or the artist who balances commercial success with critical acclaim. That question keeps their rivalry alive in cultural memory. Their influence also extends to how future generations of actors view success. Cruise has set a standard for dedication, discipline, and work ethic that continues to inspire action stars and filmmakers alike. His legacy tells aspiring actors that discipline and commitment can elevate you to superstardom. Pitt's path shows a different lesson, that authenticity, versatility, and selective choices can create a career that endures without needing constant spectacle. For younger actors, these two blueprints represent different ways to leave a mark, proving that there is no single formula.
For Hollywood greatness.
Public perception plays a huge role in shaping their legacy as well. Cruise's intensity, both on-screen and off, has often fueled debates about his persona, yet his undeniable impact on cinema silences doubt whenever he delivers another jaw-dropping performance. Pitt's laid-back, approachable image has made him a fan favorite, his coolness contrasting with Cruise's relentless energy. This difference in how they are remembered isn't accidental, it's part of their larger legacies. Together, they show the duality of stardom: one thrives on spectacle, the other on subtlety, and both have found ways to remain relevant for decades. The clash between them, whether real or magnified by the media, adds depth to their legacies because it creates a narrative of competition. Audiences love rivalries, and by constantly comparing Pitt and Cruise, fans have kept both names alive in discussions about who truly represents Hollywood's pinnacle. This ongoing debate doesn't diminish their achievements, it amplifies them, ensuring that their stories remain intertwined in the public imagination. In the end, the impact of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise on Hollywood is not about who is better, but about how their contrasting approaches have defined eras of cinema. Cruise represents the power of relentless spectacle, pushing the boundaries of what action cinema can be. Pitt represents the artistry of film, choosing roles and projects that leave lasting impressions on both audiences and critics.
Together, they embody the dual hat of Hollywood. The showmanship and the artistry, the adrenaline and the emotion.
Their legacies will forever be measured not just individually, but against each other, because their clash symbolizes more than personal rivalry.
It symbolizes the very essence of Hollywood, larger-than-life star leaving indelible marks on the world stage.